All right. As you all well know, we're in final season right now. The NBA, NHL, all rolling swimmingly on to the end of the season so we can get to where we really want to be. The MLB deadline. I'm kidding. Most of you guys want football, and that's coming. But I want to make a quick note about the finals itself. A lot of us, including me, yours truly, have come out and we've said some takes about our finals results. And yes, I was the one that said, hey, Florida and Edmonton rematch. This is going to go 7 games. Indiana would be lucky to win 1 game. This is going to be a gentleman's sweep. And of course, the night I said that, Indiana wins game 1. But here's the thing about takes. We all have them. And we all go about life saying, oh, this is going to be that and that's going to be this. But what I want to get across is no matter what your take is, enjoy the finals as it comes. Because let's say OKC completely disappoints and they just fall to Indiana, which I still think they won't. But let's say that happens. Let's celebrate Indiana. Let's celebrate another small market team winning the NBA Finals. A team, like we've said in the past, did it the right way. They didn't go through the process like the Sixers. They went and they traded and they brought in guys, and now those guys are one unit and they are playing under one of the greats that has ever coached the game, Rick Carlisle. And then the NHL side. I've been pulling for so long for the Senators Cup to go back to Canada. I want the Stanley Cup back in Canada. I want it there. I think if it goes there, world peace will ensue. This is the piece we're missing. But the way Edmonton is playing, the way that Florida is just making them look like they are playing with a man short, it could be that Florida not only wins the Stanley Cup, but that it doesn't even go 7 games. With that, let's all sit back. Let's enjoy. Let's take it all in. Hell, this is the reason why we watch the whole regular season of these sports, so we can get to this moment. This is the moment where we all get to come together as sports fans and enjoy the things that are happening in front of us, even the things that seem unlikely to happen. Guys, it's Thursday, it's Friday Junior, and this is Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores
and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, Box Scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
Boom, 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 boom. AB, welcome back.
Welcome back, buddy.
Let's bring in the episode as we always should. Whiskey in hand. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Clink, clink.
Clink, clink.
You know what? That was a good intro to this episode. The one thing I will say, though, JB, we're also in golf tour season. You forgot to mention golf tour.
I will make sure that I hit on golf in a mini-sode. I have plenty of things to say about the tour season. Trust me. I've been 80 years old since I was 12.
That's right.
So I've been watching golf for a long time.
Well,
so
I'm not saying like let's dive into golf right now. I'm just saying like
I'm saying for all you golf heads out there. I'm gonna call you pinheads. All you pinheads out there, I will get around to doing a mini-sode about tour season. Don't you worry. But we have a shortened episode for you today. It's not a mini-sode, but it is our regular episode, but we're shortening it. Our friend Manny has a going away that he is going to get to.
We're gonna try taking out all the fluff from the BS that we talk about. No, zero BS, but we'll take out the fluff from the BS that we talk about.
There you go. Maybe this is a sign of things to come. Maybe this is us being smarter and talking less, and so people have to hear us less.
I've been told I'm more popular whenever I don't talk.
Hey, I've been told I'm their favorite person when I'm not around. Okay. So let's get to the NBA Finals.
Of course.
Okay, so last episode, of course, I look like an idiot.
We do.
And I've got a friend in Indiana who, after last night, texted me, and I quote, "They'll be lucky to win one game," and he signed it Jean Labar. So
Nice.
people are listening; they remember it, which is good. It's nice to know that people are hearing me and calling me out when I'm wrong. I wish my wife would recognize when I was right, but we'll get to that another time. But Indiana, of course, they're up 2-1.
There you are.
Game one was just an absolute.
Miracle?
It wasn't a
Miracle on the
classic, but it was definitely one of those games that was like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? And honestly, it felt like in 2000 or 2001 when the Sixers beat the Lakers in Game 1, and then you got AI stepping over Tyronn Lue. And they're thinking, oh, the Sixers are going to win. No, it was a gentleman's sweep. Lakers won the next quarter. And so I was thinking, okay, well, we're just setting it up. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, but after Game 2, Oklahoma City played exactly how we know that they play.
That's right.
This is the team with the best net rating, one of the best defenses in the league this season.
Mm-hmm.
They had the best record, not because they got lucky, but because of what they did. How they killed their opponent. And they did that in Game 2.
And they're one of the best rebound teams after a loss this playoffs. They come back with fury in their hearts.
Absolutely. Especially after that foolish mistake in Game 1 when you start casing Wallace instead of Hartenstein alongside Chet. Now in Game 2 you saw a lot of Hartenstein and Chet on the court at the same time, and it seemed to really flow really well.
Mm-hmm.
Game 3 was a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Game 3 was very much OKC, especially from late third quarter on. OKC was playing so rushed. They were playing outside of themselves. They were not slowing down. Remember I said, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And they were not doing that against Indiana's high-paced offense. And Indiana likes to move. They like to get you off balance. They like to try to trick you. And if you're not set and you're secure in how you're going to attack the ball when you're on defense, some mistakes are going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Going back to my analysis of Game 1, it was definitely one of those miraculous moments where you felt it could have gone two ways just from me watching that game. It could have been one of those, like you said, it's a mind-blowing moment. This is going to be the defining moment. Very similar. I think the Pacers against I want to say it was the Pacers when we talked about how once you steal a win from the grasp of defeat, that the momentum carries you throughout the playoffs. That happened. I want to say it was the Pacers that happened to one of the previous rounds, but I'm blanking on that. That was one of the options, or like you were saying, where it's just win one game, but at the same time, even in that win, you didn't feel too confident about the way the Pacers won that game to be able to say, oh, they have a really good chance. There was still a lot of skepticism between those two teams as far as who the better team was, and even sports betting kind of hinted at that. I think the Thunder were favored for the next 6 games, even though they had, the Pacers had just won Game 1 in the miraculous fashion, and they were still favored to win the series after Game 1. And like we just said, OKC came back with a vengeance. Game 2 fell into script with how OKC has played all of playoffs all year long. When they lose, they completely obliterate their opponent and they don't take their foot off the gas. I feel like that was part of what happened in Game 1 to Game 2. They felt like they had the Pacers in a good position, being up 18, whatever that score was in the fourth quarter. Usually, when OKC has teams with that point differential, you could get comfortable because OKC was such a well-rounded team. They forgot that on the other side of the court was the Pacers that have been coming back from 20-point deficits all playoffs long. So I felt like maybe they took their foot off the gas. They didn't seem to be playing with as much energy, as much speed, energy, passion, whatever you want to call it after Game 1, and the Pacers took advantage of that moment. So they came back with the vengeance Game 2, rode the the lead that they had the entire game and never let up, and the final score showed that. Now, game 3, that is where we need to really dissect what has happened, because to me, it is not what I expected game 3 to look like. I didn't even expect the Pacers to be able to do what they did to the Thunder in game 3. Primarily, the Pacers dictated the pace of the game. Since the beginning of the series last week, I guess, I sat here and said you weren't going to be able to dictate the pace of the game against the Thunder, because the Thunder all year long had been the ones that set the pace. They were number 1 in all the categories when it came to speed of the game. Pacers did a really good job at dictating the pace to where I felt like OKC didn't really know how to respond to it, because they were usually the bullies. They were the ones that were dictating the pace, and other teams had to adjust to what they were doing. The Pacers took the script right out of their hands, and the Thunder didn't know how to counter their own game plan, which I think backfired on them, especially in the fourth quarter. Because with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the score was still like a 1-point game, and they ended up winning by 10 points or 9 points, which is on par for the Pacers. This is like I said last week, if you let the Pacers stick around all game long, they will find a way to win. But it was not on par with what the Thunder you tend to do, which is kind of whenever it's a small cushion, they find a little streak and they don't let up and they stack up the points, and all of a sudden it's a 20-0 run or 22 run. That didn't happen in Game 3, which was so completely surprising to me. I could not understand why they seemed like they were so shocked by the type of gameplay that the Pacers were putting in front of them.
Yeah, I honestly, the biggest factor yesterday was Mathurin. Benedict Mathurin had a career game,
yeah.
And I know Indiana. He came in spurts earlier in the season or during the season and really saved Indiana's bacon there for bits and pieces there. But last night was just a career game for him.
Yep.
For him to drop 27 in 22 minutes off the bench is just absolutely incredible, and a testament to like I said before the series started, if I had to give the edge to whoever had the better depth, it's Indiana. And it's mainly because you had guys like Thomas Bryant and Mathurin on the bench. And Mathurin really, he just absolutely came alive last night. And I thought, and honestly, look, there was a moment in the middle of the third quarter where Miles Turner just looked tired. He looked like he would rather have been anywhere else. He was trying to get the game over so he can get to his wet nurse and actually get some sleep. And I was like, okay, well, this is OKC's time to be able to maybe dominate the boards on the defensive end and to just take control of the game. Put Indiana so far out of range where they don't even where there's not even a sniff of hope that they can do anything. Because even Tyrese, he had 22 and 9, but when you play almost a whole game, you expect more from your star player. And so it's not as if Indiana was clicking on all cylinders. This was absolutely OKC busting their assignments. This was OKC overplaying the moves and the shakes that Indiana had on the offensive side of the ball. And OKC cannot do that. OKC is so much, like I said at the top, OKC led the league in net scoring. They led the league. They were top of the league in defense. This is a team that knows how to slowly and painfully kill your opponent on the court. They did it too often. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, yeah, Indiana won by 9 points last night, but it seemed not as if OKC has lost this series. Even like game 1 was Indiana riding the momentum of being there. Okay, I'll give you that. OKC absolutely dominated in game 2. And that's the team that we know that they are. The team we know they can be when they actually stick to their assignment and they don't overplay the momentum that Indiana is coming at them with. because that's what happened last night. But even after last night, I'm not looking at this and walking away thinking, oh, maybe Indiana's going to take this series. OKC's too good. And on top of that, they're all healthy. This is a healthy OKC squad. This isn't like them, this isn't like the Knicks against the Pacers where you have, OG Anunoby playing at 30% at the beginning of the series and gradually getting up there to 70, 80% health, and then you're counting on Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy while he's on the court. This is a healthy team. And last night, I was looking at I was watching the game, but I was looking at the numbers too, and the only person that came off the court that actually came off the bench rather, that made any sort of difference for OKC was Caruso. And of course you put Caruso in because you're trying to, create some chaos. And my God, he did it a few times. He did it at the end of the game where OKC really had a legit shot to come back into the game. But when you look at how SGA did, he was kind of mid. He was kind of shut down. Jalen Williams was the one that really kind of carried the team yesterday. He was the one that was kind of like the most cold-blooded, except if you count the end. If you don't count the end when, he's missing free throws. And I'm like, I still don't understand how you miss a free throw. This should be the only thing you practice.
It's
at
called
practice.
free.
Free throw.
It's called free.
It's free. There's nothing free in life except this free throw. That's it. That's all you got. So nobody in the military had to die in order for you to go to the line. No, it's a free throw. Just do it. You're not sacrificing a soldier because you make a free throw. Just make a free throw. So I look at last night and I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but they really, we've talked about it before, how SGA is really good at ball handling, but when he tries to get fancy, that's when he's in trouble. And Indiana really put him in positions yesterday to where even from beyond the top of the key going into the paint, they were making him uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And he was making he was making some really good shots. When he's forced to get fancy, that's when he gets in trouble. And so it's going to be one of those things where OKC's going to have to figure out, not even figure out, they're going to have to be resolved in their just going out there on the court and saying, okay, this is our ball. Mm-hmm. And Mark Daigneault knows how to speak to this team. These players believe in Daigneault. They believe in what he's done. They believe in what he is doing. Daigneault needs to gather his players, and he needs to get there, and he needs to get them out of their own heads. My buddy from Indiana said, "Oh, and Indiana's in their heads because they're too busy watching their own commercials on TV." So, but if OKC can be resolved to just staying in their lane, being secure in how they play ball, especially on the defensive end, then they will be fine because they've already showed it to us. The blueprint and how to beat Indiana was in Game 2 when they absolutely owned Indiana.
Yeah.
There's the blueprint. They've already done it. They need to not just kind of lean on or rely on what happened the night prior, but they need to go out every night and say, this is a brand new game. This is a whole new series.
Yeah.
This is winner take all. And we win this game by being who we are because that's what got us here.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the Thunder rebounding from Game 3. I just said, they do a really good job at rebounding anytime they lose. So I'm not too worried about that. I will say I disagree with you with one of the points that you were making, where you were saying it fell on OKC. Almost, you didn't say the Pacers didn't win this game, the Thunder lost the game, but you were hinting at the fact that the Thunder was at fault for the way that they played. Kind of disagree with you, because if I like the strategy that the Pacers adopted to make sure that they dictated the pace, and I already talked about the pace a little bit, but they also put 8 defenders on SGA throughout the entire game, with the goal being to tire him out because he was the driving force of that offense. And we know, I mean, it's not a secret that we all see that he is the driving force behind the Thunder. It probably behooves the Thunder to have more depth, to have a better way to get the ball to all their players. But the Pacers knew that he was the one that was the general of that offense, so they put 8 defenders on him, which caused him problems because there was never a time where he could find a mismatch or at least be fresher than his opponent if it was one-on-one the entire game, because there was always somebody with fresh legs in front of him. That offset him, that tired him out. His points kind of showed it, and I don't think that was that wasn't on accident. The Pacers purposely did that to make sure that he didn't dictate the pace of the game. That's why I think it was more of the Pacers adapting and the strategy was executed to perfection more than the Thunder's ineptitude to be able to keep up with the pace. I think it was more the Pacers won the game because of what they did, not the Thunder lost the game because of the lack of what they did.
Well, look, okay, so I'll throw a counter at you. So let's keep the 8 defenders on SGA last night. The 8 different defenders on SGA throw him off his game because it really did. He had a negative net rating on the court. So, and it worked. But if OKC sticks to their assignment and they're resolved in their ability to be able to stay calm on the defensive end of the ball and to force the offense to make a mistake, do you think OKC still loses last night's game?
Oh, that's a hard one. Honestly, maybe not, I guess. But like my dictating statistic for that argument would be the turnover rate, and I think there were it was like 17 and 14 turnovers. The OKC had 3-4 more turnovers than the Pacers. So if you're talking about that aspect of things, I mean, I don't think that had a big of an impact as we're trying to make it sound like, because 3 turnovers in a game the difference in the game is not going to dictate the 9 points or 10 points that they had to lead in the fourth quarter or the last 6 minutes. I think it's deeper than that. I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning, and this might be a reason to be cautious about the success of the Pacers, was that their bench really pulled their weight. I'm not too sure that the Pacers can rely on their bench constantly doing what they did in Game 3. That would be the concerning part of the things, and I think that is more of the tell behind what happened in Game 3. I think the final statistic was the Pacers bench scored 48 points. The OKC Thunder's bench scored 18 or 19 points, which is a huge difference. But it's not a difference that I would expect to be status quo for the Pacers. I am not banking on the bench being able to put those type of numbers for the rest of the series. I think that's the bigger thing than the turnovers and the other aspects of like turning over the ball and that kind of dictating the pace of the game.
Yeah, I would say that OKC. Okay, so you brought up the turnover, and there were a handful of turnovers OKC suffered on offense, and it's because of them losing the battle on the defensive side of the ball, and then them having to rush and get back to the offensive side of the ball. So I would sit there and say, have 8 different guys, give different looks to SGA. Give different looks, okay? But OKC, I mean, this is not new. SGA's used to this. Oklahoma City's gone through this all season long. That was the best way for them to be able to get beat, is to be able to throw SGA off his game, is to be able to give him different looks. Sure. And Indiana capitalized on that last night, and good on them. That was incredibly smart for them to do that, because the league knows if he has to get fancy, he's going to make mistakes, and that's what happened last night.
Yeah.
But if OKC is calm on the defensive side of the ball, if they're calm and they force Indiana to pace themselves into a mistake, okay, great, do that. We'll take the ball, we'll go back, and then we'll just continue to play our ball. If the score is low, okay, great, that's fine. But at least control the ball on the defensive side and then that way you can finally try to figure out a way to work it out when it's your turn again.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though, because at the end of what you were saying, you said you still feel like OKC probably wins this series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does the statistic that I saw this morning change your mind, where the winning team of Game 3 when the series is tied in the finals, they are 33-8 for winning the finals? Does that
No.
change your... No?
Nope.
That's a pretty... to me, that's a pretty drastic tell. And I'm skeptical, too, about saying, well, this is like the nail in the coffin. The stats show that the Pacers are going to win the series. But it's a big tell that they were able to win that game in that fashion, and that the statistics show that it is a defining moment for series to win Game 3.
Yeah. I'd like to know, I'm not going to discount the stat, what a great stat, but shout out to Hofstra because they probably came up with it. But let's, I know you don't have this and I don't have it, but out of those 41 games, right? I'd like to know of those 33 teams that won, how many of those were the presumptive winner of the series? How many of those were the better team?
Mm-hmm.
And how many of the teams of the 8 teams that lost were the worst team?
Yeah, that's honestly a good point. I would be curious to see if the eight teams that didn't win the series are the teams that were the underdog the entire series. I feel like that would be a better in-depth of that statistic. I think that would show a lot. But we talked about turnovers for a little bit. We have to give credit to a player that I feel like I forgot about until I saw him again last night, and I remembered that we talked about him last year, not in the finals, but in the Eastern Conference Finals. That is McConnell. Mm-hmm. The little pesky guy that runs around the court and drives some passion behind that team. I swear, I was watching him, I'm like, why does he seem like he's always everywhere? He was part of the turnover differential that was caused. He was causing turnovers on the inbound play. He was disrupting the defense across the board. He was getting rebounds in the places where he shouldn't be. That man, for being a role player, knows how to bring some passion behind the Pacers, and credit to him. I feel like we talked about him last year with the Pacers, and we were talking about how he was this unsung hero of a role player that really drove the Pacers last year when they ultimately came up short in the playoffs. But I had forgotten about him so much, and I feel like we need to, again, give him credit for continuing to do what he did last year and being that pesky defender that he is known to be for the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, and look, TJ's been in it for a while. He knows his role. He knows, he's in the twilight of his career. He knows, hey, I'm not going out there to be the star. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Okay, I'm supposed to come in here, probably to give Tyrese a breather. I'll come in here and I'll do my thing, and I'll let Hallie get his breath, and then he can come back on the court. He knows what his role is.
Yep.
And that, that's why I like Alex Caruso. And honestly, like, I would sit there and say, why don't, look, friggin' Cason Wallace is listed as the starting shooting guard for Oklahoma City. Why isn't Caruso the starting shooting guard? Why isn't he? Because of all of the chaos that he creates when he's on the court. And he's 31. He's not old. He can still go out there and ball. Give you a good 25 minutes and still just mix and match the two of them.
I think
why is he
part of that. I honestly like what OKC's doing with him, because he's almost like a starter on the bench that is cool with being on the bench, and he just, whenever a starter or two needs a break, like, you can plant him in there and you almost don't miss a step with your offense, especially on your defense, with him on the floor. So it's almost like having that ace up your sleeve of a starter that is not part of your starting five. So I kind of like it.
Okay. Well, let's get to something I kind of don't like, and that's Edmonton down 2-1. This is a series that has really just it hasn't thrown me for a loop, because look, let's start at the top, okay? Paul Maurice, he's a legend. He knows how to coach. He's got a superior playoff record, and of course he's coaching the Panthers, which is the reason why Florida's been in here 3 years in a row. Okay, we get it. Okay, they are a superior team. If we're talking about a current dynasty in the NHL right now, it's the Florida Panthers.
Yep.
They know how to play. They know how to win. They know how to overcome anything thrown at them. And on the other side, Edmonton is really just getting outside of themselves. So Edmonton's got Connor McDavid, they got Leon Draisaitl, they're out there, really trying to, set up the hard line and whatever, and just try to keep Florida at bay. Edmonton, especially the Game 3 was so weird to me. It was so bizarre. Edmonton completely played outside of their style, and it absolutely showed. And especially with Skinner getting pulled in the middle of the third period, which I completely agree with Chris Knobloch pulling him. I get it. Keep him fresh. This isn't helping. Get Picard in there. Let him get some reps, just in case something happens to Skinner, God forbid. But Skinner has looked like an absolute puppet out there. He is just, and look, and a lot of people want to say, oh, it's because Skinner's a joke. Skinner's really not that good. No, it's not him. It's because the hard line's not there. Florida is going to be, and I forgot, who was it? Was it Sam Bennett, that effing guy? I think it was Sam Bennett who was going one-on-one, and he just dribbled right in. And so it was, but the way Edmonton has played, especially in Game 3, I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy about a 7-game series here. I'm just not. And I would not be surprised at all if Florida just won this in 5, if this is a gentleman's sweep. I would not be surprised at all. And you know what? More power to them. Going into this series, the reason I was so high on Edmonton is because the one thing they didn't have last Stanley Cup or last season that they definitely improved on this season was their depth. And Chris Knobloch did a great job at being able to keep them fresh. The games 1 and 2 were back and forth. They were really close. They were great games. Game 3 was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Edmonton was just, they were playing behind. And Florida at times has played like they have a 6th skater on the ice. Like, they're just, and I'm like, well, how is this so hard for Edmonton to stop? And, I mean, all credit to, Bobrovsky, because he's just an absolute magician in front of the net, but it should not be playing out this way.
No.
It just shouldn't be.
No, you know what bothered me about Game 3 was the way that it played out in the third. I think it was the third period when Edmonton was down 4-1, and the 5-on-5 brawl happened. That by itself kind of showed me that I feel like Florida is getting in their head. There was no reason for that brawl to happen in the way that it did. Don't get me wrong. Brawls in hockey are what make hockey what it is. I'm not against it, but in the way that it happened, when you're down 4-1 and you're pretty much getting your butts kicked at that point, it almost seemed like it was just like a petty moment where they were frustrated and they let their frustration get to them, so a brawl ensued from that point. That just to me kind of looked like Edmonton was in their own heads and Florida was in their heads, and it was just portraying itself on the ice, and they were just frustrated as a whole. I didn't like it too much. Again, I love the brawls, but in that situation, when you're down 4-1, what are you fighting besides frustrations? Which tells me I have to lean a little bit to what you're saying. I feel like this is like the beginning of the end for this series. Like, it just seems like the Florida has the advantage from the here on out. And you just have to look at the first 2 games and see that it epitomized in the third game. Edmonton had almost no business winning Game 1. Let's be honest. They wanted an overtime thanks to a last-second score. And sure, Florida kind of did the same thing in Game 2, but they really should be down more than where they are right now. It should really be like 3-0 at this point, not 2-1. And the way that brawl happened, I feel like they feel that a brewing on the ice, and they're just frustrated that they can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, and like I said, all credit to Florida. If this series goes 7, great. If it doesn't go 7, I'm still like we're witnessing a dynasty here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see Florida slowing down anytime soon. I see Florida as the perennial stonewall for the rest of the NHL to have to bust down and to be able to crack that code. What's that word they use for video games for the last villain?
The big boss? I don't know.
The big boss. Yeah. The Florida is the boss.
Yeah.
Of the video game world, like of hockey.
Yeah.
Like you have to defeat the boss.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to go to Florida for the next 3-4 years to get to the.
Florida is not an easy one to take down.
Mm-mm.
And so all credit to them, all credit to Maurice for coaching this team. I still think I know Edmonton's got some fight in them, and I see what you mean. Like going up now that Game 3 had finished, and Game 4 is tonight on Thursday, and so in less than an hour.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see, just the fact that Florida's won the last 2, and they only went to overtime because Edmonton tied it with 20 seconds left, or 17 seconds left, and so there's been a lot of shots in here for Edmonton in this series that seem very much like, whoa, where did that come from? And for Florida, it's all very much just business as usual.
Yeah.
This is all just them just head to head taking the shot, and then being the road runner to Skinner's Coyote and just bettering him most of the time, and especially in Game 3 when Edmonton led that whole game. I believe they led the whole game in shots. I think the shots on goal, like Florida had 6 goals, but they had less shots on goal than Edmonton. They got 1, and so it seems like Edmonton is and here's the big difference too that I've noticed is that Florida's getting a lot of their goals being right there in front of the net, being just being right there in the zone.
Yeah.
Edmonton's doing a lot of slap shots from half ice, and look, I mean it's working sometimes, and sometimes it's not working, but I feel like just the hardline game from Florida has been far superior to Edmonton's, and Edmonton's calling card this season, one of their calling cards was just their defense. It was them being able to overtake a team and tire them out in order for Edmonton to be able to go out and to take the game. And Florida is absolutely at least 2 nights ago, just absolutely just ran through Edmonton. Ran right through them.
Let me ask you something, and I feel like you've already answered this question by what you've been saying. Doesn't it feel, watching this series, that Edmonton is having to go like 100, 110%, the cliche thing to say, like they're having to go 100% the entire time to stay in that game, and Florida is just like cruising through all 3 periods.
Well, yeah, because
in each game, I feel like that's telling.
No, it seems that way, especially when, like I said before, Florida seems like they're playing with the 6th man on the ice. They're playing with 6 skaters, and Edmonton's just trying to bounce around, and it's because Edmonton's being rushed. And I had a conversation with a guy on Twitter. We were going back and forth about this. He's I assume he's a Panther fan, but we were going back and forth, and and honestly, it's just that Edmonton's just playing too rushed right now. Edmonton is playing the same way OKC's playing. They're playing way too rushed. They're trying to respond to whatever their opponent's pace is, and Edmonton needs to just stick with your assignment. Edmonton's not going to be as fast as Florida. They're not. They're better skaters, and and quite frankly, the roster is superior to Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
So Edmonton's not going to beat them with just purely based on the talent on the ice. And no matter how much we talk about Connor McJesus, it's not. I mean, he's one guy. He's only one guy, and so Florida is far superior athletically. They have a far superior roster than Edmonton does, and so being able to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to keep up with them," you're not going to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah,
you're going to have to change You're going to have to go back to what was working for you, and if you can't do that, change the entire schematic of what you're doing on the defensive side. Like, change the whole schematic.
Yep.
Figure that out.
Yep.
Because they're already taking shots from half ice. So what would be the difference if they just sat there and said, okay, we're going to hard line right here, and then if the only shots we get to take are from half or quarter ice, okay, then we'll take it. But they're going to have to do something. And honestly, unlike the OKC series where I see OKC actually still winning the series, I don't see Indiana actually overtaking OKC. This series is so different. These are probably this is the epitome of two polar opposite 2-1 series right now. 2-1. And mainly because Florida, I mean, look, even before the series started, we all knew, no matter how much, you may have wanted Edmonton to win the series, you knew Florida was a better team. This is the third year in a row they're there. They won it last year. So this is not new to them. It's not new to Edmonton to be here, but they're playing the same team they lost to in 7 games last Stanley Cup final, and they're playing them again. And no matter how great your depth is for the Oilers, it's just not cutting it if you're not going to give Skinner the help that he needs in order to help stop the ferocious shots from Florida. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what is the biggest tell of this series, is the fact that Florida is playing as if they've been there before. Edmonton feels like because they were there before last year, they have to do what they did plus some just to stay in every single game, and it is showing on the ice. I think Florida, even watching the way Florida has been passing the puck around, like they know where everybody is at all times. They know exactly where they want the puck to go to get, I guess you could call it like their plays to get the puck in front of the ice. Edmonton is just going, to the wall to try staying into this game, and it just seems, I know the moment's not too big for them because they were there last year, but because they lost how they did last year, it almost gives that underlying, the moment is getting a little big for them because they know that they lost last year, and it's showing on the ice with the gameplay itself. Like you just said, half court shots on goal compared to shots on goal right in front of the goalie is going to come out with two different results majority of the time, and it's showing. It showed itself in Game 3. That was like the perfect tell in how I see this series going out. Game 3 was a perfect tell that the strategy and the experience and we've been here before and we've won it, we know what we're doing, is getting to Edmonton, and they're going to have to, I agree with you, they're going to either have to just stick to their fundamentals and just stick, like, don't break, and almost like in the Pacers way when I was saying last week, like, stick to your fundamentals, don't break, keep the game close, and steal the game at the end, compared to what Florida's doing with is just they're cruising through it and giving hints of maybe playing with their food a little bit.
Honestly, if there's one key to this, because the SGA comp to Florida is Sam Bennett. If Edmonton can slow down Bennett and maybe force the game to Kachuk to maybe try to kind of or maybe Verhaeghe to make things happen. If they can slow down Sam Bennett, if they can block him out, if they can take him out of the game, then Edmonton's got to, because Sam Bennett's a problem.
Yeah.
He's a real problem, and he is a pest on the ice. And he's been a pest this season. He was a pest last postseason, and the postseason before that. He's a pest, and he is absolutely going to take advantage of any chinks in the armor that he can find.
Mm-hmm.
And by God, Edmonton is showing all kinds of chinks in the armor, and so they're just taking advantage of every single one of them, especially Game 3.
Yeah. Oh, well, to wrap it up, I want us to reassess our lock-in points. Let's lock in how we see both of these series going. First off, NBA, give me your final series record, and then we'll
OKC in 6.
OKC in 6. Okay, I think it's gonna go 7. I want to go OKC in 7. What about NHL?
My heart tells me Edmonton in 7, but my head tells me Florida in 6.
Okay, yeah, I'll go Florida in 6 too. That just, like I said, I didn't get to see too much of 1 and 2. I saw Game 3, just the way that they're playing. They just seem so well rounded. Everything tells me Florida is just so much more prepared to win this. And 6 is, 5 is kind of. I'll stick with 6, but 5 wouldn't be out of the question.
Yeah.
Finally, JB, were you sipping on something? I know you were smoking something.
I was sipping on a Bullet Rye.
Oh, nice. Well, that's always a good one. I like their cocktail mixes, the Manhattans and the.
Yeah, they have an old-fashioned one. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they're always good. Your smoke, JB.
Oh, I am smoking a Halftime by Karen Berger. So it's a lot like, almost like a flying pig from Liga, but it's a lot less work to be able to keep the draw.
Yeah.
So Liga, Drew Estates in general, they roll their cigars too tight.
Yep.
You got to keep lighting it because the draw is too hard.
Mm-hmm.
But Karen Berger, she makes some pretty good sticks. What were you drinking?
I popped open one of my other gifts, which was a Bondstone Bourbon Casket Strength.
Nice, I've had that.
It's really good. Bitter.
Yeah.
It's very strong. It's aged for 4 years. It's 62.7 alcohol by volume, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's good. It was good. I smoked it out a little bit, so it was on the rocks a little bit with my little cute
Nice.
but it was good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, get us out of here, JB. Where can people find us? Where can people listen, watch, contribute?
Folks, you can listen, watch to the full-length episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Box Scores and Bourbon, and additional content on TikTok, X, and Instagram at BSB Sports 24. And like I said, stay tuned for the mini-sodes that I'll be coming out with. And until next time, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.